On this edition of Black Men Cry Too, we're doing a special Father's Day edition where you all get to meet my loving and dear father. Black Men Cry Too is an invitation for men of color to unpack their hurt and share their truth and know that it's okay, that they can cry too. And as you can see, I am social distancing from my own father because this is still quarantine. Thank you, Daddy, for sitting down with me today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Typically, I do a shot of some cognac, but because you're more classy than I am, we're going to do wine. And I have to take my mask off for this. Good?
Good. Very good.
Glad you like it. So to kick it off, the reason why I wanted you to sit here today is, although I have a platform called Black Men Cry Too, you are my Italian father, but you are married to a beautiful West Indian queen.
That's true, yes.
Yes, let's keep that going because we need to eat on Sunday.
Perfect description.
Perfect. What I want to know first is, in dating Mom, what were some experiences that opened your eyes to how ignorant the world can be?
It was a different time back then. I mean, it's a lot, you can see, it's a lot more accepted now, and I'm not saying it wasn't totally accepted back then. It wasn't totally unusual, but it was not common. I had, just being friendly with your mom on the job, I had heard some grumblings from other people, and some people I know would say, hey, you know, so-and-so was saying some weird things about you guys, and it was...
And this was on Wall Street?
On Wall Street, yes. Mm-hmm. And Wall Street now is probably not much different from what it was back then, but it was definitely male-run. It was a good old boys club. There's been a lot of breakthroughs now, but back then, I know of one female that was in a position of management, and compared to maybe 20, 30 males. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be in each other's company, and it took a lot of adapting. I mean, your mom, too, going out with an Italian-American from Queens. It had to be something really new for her. So she was learning a lot of the way I was brought up, and I had to kind of let her realize, too, maybe I wasn't the typical white Italian male growing up in Queens. My family was kind of odd when it came to racial comments and stuff. There was no, I never remember any overt prejudice in my family. Now, I'm sure they were the greatest generation from World War II, the Depression and all that, so I'm sure they had some feelings, but I never saw it. My immediate family, they were very open and would never show anything. You know, what's so crazy about this? You know, get with it.
Oh, that was cute slang that you tried to throw in there. That was cute. That was cute. It was cute. To piggyback off of that, in you talking about like Mom trying to understand what it means to date a white Italian American, what steps did you take being a white Italian American to understand Mom's culture? Because Mom came from a Caribbean island, and not only understanding her culture, understanding her history, understanding what that actually means to be a black woman in America.
I'll be honest, I wasn't super familiar with Caribbean culture, but growing up when I did, I mean, I grew up in the 50s and 60s. In 68, I mean, I went to a high school where they were very much into current events and civic affairs, and we lived through and we watched Martin Luther King get assassinated, Robert Kennedy get assassinated, and this was constantly topics of discussion. So living through it, we were just more interested in it, and we started learning, and that's how I started learning a lot more of the black history, who Martin Luther King was, because I was watching it on TV as it was happening, and we were looking into the history of it and finding what was going on, and going a little more to some experiences you had. I mentioned to you when I was in school in Boston, when the Black Panther Party started. I was living in a dormitory. Black members of the school that lived in a dormitory, they asked to get their own wing on the floor. And it was no big deal. I said, okay, fine, that's what you wanted, that's what they did. And from that, though, this was more the time, I know you experienced part of this, where a lot of people, you hear the Black Panther Party, they think of the guns, the Black Liberation Army, off the pigs. What they don't remember is
Or what they don't shine light on.
The social aspects of it, how they were
Feeding.
feeding the children. And I remember the story was some young black kids were coming up and we want to join, and they were given books. And they would say, you're supposed to arm me. Why are you giving me books? I need arms. And they said, that's your arms. This is what you need to win over what you have to get. So we learned a lot from them. I mean, we were friends with them. We've been going to school for over a year together, so they knew us. And we tried to respect them, and thankfully, they were very respectful to us. They explained it in detail what they were looking for. And so I kind of learned all of that. And then dating your mom, and then having Nikki and your cousin Tarek, as they were growing up and they were going to do schoolwork, they'd be asking questions, and I just, because I lived through it, I knew the answers and I'd be helping them with it, and I just felt kind of, wow, this is pretty cool. Because it's not the type of stuff that I saw them learning in the schools. Since I was able to say, part because I knew I had studied it, and part I lived through it. And this is what really happened, not what some of these history books are telling you. And I hate to use the term fake news, but there are so many stories out there, they would slant stories. They would take 20% of the truth, and then the other 80% is their own personal feelings, which had nothing to do with the truth. So yeah, it felt kind of good to be able to say, hey, you can believe me on this because I saw it, I was there. You know, what they're telling you now is, if you look back, read the newspapers back then, that's not what really happened. So it's that part of it I understood. The Caribbean part of it.
The whole ball game in itself.
Yeah, and the funniest part is when I started learning that, I know you don't like this because it's your parents and you don't like to hear this part, but part of what attracted me to her is when she started explaining the upbringing in the Caribbean. There are so many similarities to an Italian-American upbringing. You know, the parents with their strange beliefs and their traditions and their rights, and then, of course, the cooking.
That's why I'm never skinny, guys.
Yeah, life revolves around food. One of the comments Mom made after dealing with my mother, and you remember Grandma was a big woman, it was like, I know who's going to like it, and she likes it. We both love food. And it was like, yeah, I looked at that and it was like, wow.
That's all it takes.
No, but I mean, they saw each other as people. So, you know, I knew, yes, I was nervous about Grandma. I didn't think she would get crazy or anything, but, you know, you just kind of wonder when a meeting finally happens and they know this is a serious thing going on. But it was a good feeling. You know, it's what I always believed in my mom, because I told you the story when we were little kids with my sister, and it was just very quickly to say that when, in the 50s, I was probably maybe 7, my sister was 4, and we went to this one big discount shopping store, had a little play area with rides right next to it. I remember this is the 50s. My brother, me, and my sister were waiting to get on one of these loopy rides. And my sister was in front, and there's a little black girl. I'm a kid. I'm just realizing this maybe 10 years after the fact what really happened, because then I didn't really understand what was going on. So the ride guy puts a little white girl in the car with this little black girl, and this little girl's mother comes screaming out, "Get my little girl out of that car. What the hell is wrong with you? She's not going to ride with that." You know, me and my brother were sitting there like, what's going on? This woman's crazy. But we never made the connection. And Grandma Rachel, my mother, just comes up and takes my sister's hand. Catherine, go in there, you know. And my sister went in. My mother's looking at this other one. What are you, crazy? What's wrong with you? Why are you doing this to children? And at the time, to me, it was just, oh, Mom's acting crazy to some other crazy lady. Years later, when I realized what happened, I was like, oh my gosh. You know, and that story always stuck with me. And I kind of felt that in a situation like this, I didn't expect her to get upset. She was worried, and the worry was similar to what a lot of my close friends would say. Are you sure you both can handle it? Mm-hmm. Not what you're doing is wrong. It's like, are you ready for what's going to happen? The comments, the backlash. Can I deal with someone who's going to be prejudiced against and be able to survive it and deal with how mom's going to react. And in the long run, how you and Nikki are treated. So I'm still learning. But I'd say that kind of formed everything as far as that. And I don't know if I got off topic, but that's kind of what I was saying. I knew what was going on. I experienced a lot of it. So it was easier to understand. I didn't know everything. There's no way I can ever experience everything because I can't change this. But seeing firsthand, living with the people that are going through it, I know how it hurts them. So the most I can do is just be there to support them and help them through.
You basically, your last piece segues into my next question. How are you able to support in hearing these stories when mom comes home and tells you she experienced prejudice, racism, adversity? What do those conversations look like?
The first part is obviously trying to calm her down. Relax, let's talk this out. And then knowing that there's no way I could say, I know how you feel. I don't know how you feel. Mm-hmm. I've never had that feeling, so I can't say that. But what I try to say is, what can we do about it? You know, what do you want to do? How do you feel? Is this something that we want to live with and over the long run hope we change something? Do you want to take some action now? You guys know even today it's very difficult to prove. My job right now, I've had a black man come to me complaining about prejudicial treatment. She was being called names by white workers and so on, and I jumped on it. Well, legally I had to, but because of my experience, it's like, I want to put a stop to this. I don't want to work where some coworkers of mine are acting like this. Let's do something about it. And I laid out everything that was there for him to do. Unfortunately, I don't understand why he didn't want to follow through. That's his choice. I couldn't do that for him, but I was still able to put a watch on this person. You know, watch out for this person. There's a history, although there was no formal complaint. But I'm aware that there are things and procedures that can be taken to address the issue, even though it's not going to get resolved. There's something in writing. We can build a history, we can build a case if it's necessary. That doesn't always make people feel better, but it's a step. You know, they know they did something. It's no immediate satisfaction. And I know you, Nikki, and Mom, there's going to be things that you're going to carry with you for years saying, I just wish something could have happened to that person. Not evil, but that they have to pay for that, what they did wrong.
So not only are you married to a beautiful Caribbean queen.
Gorgeous.
Okay, great. Yuck. But you also are the father of 2 women of color, and that's who this Nikki is that you keep referencing, my older sister. And you are a hashtag girl dad, a pretty okay one if I say so myself. Like, you're all right. Like, you do your part. But when it comes to managing to encourage and support when we experience adversity as your children, how do you do that?
With the way things are now with you and Maika, Nikki, it's understanding what you're up against, letting you know that, yes, I am aware of that, but we still have to work through it step by step. So it would still be the same, but with a few added dimensions to it. Was this just typical corporate America crap that they're dumping on you? Which I've being in different levels from low-level employee to supervisor type positions. I mean, I see a lot of stuff that can be taken into a sad situation where a blatant racist, misogynist, crazy person is a manager, and you know they're picking on the women, they're picking on the blacks, they're picking on the Asians. And it gets to the point, what can you do? I mean, I've tried to take the experiences I've had there and what I know can be done to pass it on to you and your sister and your mom. This is what legally you can do, this is what the law says. And then I get to that point where damn, I almost feel guilty. Because, yeah, well, since, for the most part, now you've got you, Mom, you've known me, I've always been like a supervisor of some sort, and and I have to look and see it's my cohorts that are doing this to my own children and to my wife. And it really, it hurts, but that's why I try to keep telling you, you have to fight. There are other people out there like me. I have some of my coworkers that they're very much like me with any little thing like that. We now know, especially in the environment we have now, human resources departments are starting to listen a lot more. It's even gotten to the point where in New York State, although not just recently, there are more avenues to address issues, to stop it before it gets any worse or to stop it before it even happens. Unfortunately, that hasn't been there in the past, so we've had to do with what we had, and a lot of it was, there are times, and I know it's hurt even without me being here, you just have to suck it up. And it's wrong. And it always caught me, I could never tell you and Nikki, wow, gee, we got to stick with this. And I can't say that to you, and I wouldn't. I would just say, this is how it is now, but fight. And again, work with something that we should not have to go through. It should be just one giant leap where it's over with. But as you can see, it's just going on. I just like the whole thing. On top of it, the fact that the females. I remember the nonsense my sister went through when she was trying to, in the 60s, 70s, when she was trying to get a job and get in the corporate world, and the stuff she used to tell me that they used to tell her. I mean, it was sickening. She would fight it. You know, eventually she started moving up, and that was for a white woman back then. So it was doubly worse for someone else. So we're getting there. Hopefully with the current environment, now people finally woke up and said, okay, we can't wait another 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. We got to do this now.
With the current environment, clearly you see, and we tell you, me and my sister are on the front lines. We're protesting constantly. And back in your heyday, you also were a protester. How do you feel learning that 2 of your children, your female children of color, are on the front lines protesting?
Proud. I mean, maybe, as a parent, it scares the hell out of me to see you guys on the front lines because I remember what it was back then. But I guess the part that scares me more is, yeah, back then all I had to do was cut my hair. And then suddenly the police liked me because I was no longer a long-haired pinko commie hippie freak. You can't change, and you're going to be you. So that's the part that kind of frightens me. But I've always felt from back then, you got to stand up. You have to show. You have to do something because you can't let somebody else do it for you. And like I said, I get worried when it's like the first few days of these protests. I knew you were out there. I didn't want to call you. I didn't want to know. I knew you were out there, but I said, I can't. I'm worried enough as it is. If I hear you on the phone and I hear the crowd behind you, as a parent, I would start freaking out. But yet, there was that part of me saying, yeah, I'm glad that this is good. You're doing the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, there's pride in it. And as long as you and Nikki are safe and you make the right decisions while you're out there, I want to see you guys out there. Because we got it. We have to do it.
How do you feel with the climate and the situations that are going on in the world overall, especially being a father of 2 women of color, being married to a woman of color? Like, what is, if you're comfortable sharing, what is your personal feelings?
As far as
Black Lives Matter, police brutality.
The police brutality part, like I said, that was what happened back in the 60s when I was in Boston. That's a lot of it revolved around that. Unfortunately, I don't think that's something that's not going to change overnight, because if it hasn't changed since 68 and 69, I don't think it's going to change overnight now. But what I do see, there do seem to be quite a number more of police officers who understand. Unfortunately, there is still that hardcore that just wants to knock heads and, bring their own, I don't want to denigrate all rednecks, racist. They have their racist beliefs, and they hide it enough to get on the force, and then they act like, oh no, I'm not racist, but as we can see, black man goes through a red light, and he's beaten over the head and clubbed and handcuffed. White person goes through a red light. So do you know what you just did? No. So if that's still happening, so that to me is, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it, but they're going to have to do a lot more weeding out. That still annoys me. I worked with police when I worked at our office, when our office was in Fort Taunton. It was the technical assistance police force was there, and these guys were wonderful. They treated all of us in that office like friendly, as neighbors, as family. Never once did we get anything nasty from them. But those are not the type of people I see. So, okay, I know 20 cops that are really good. I don't want to denigrate them because of these four wackos, nut jobs in Minnesota. There's no explanation for that, but unfortunately, as we're seeing, there's a lot more than we thought. How are they existing? That's what I don't understand. How do the police chiefs let these people continue? I understand the blue wall of silence. We want to protect our coworkers. But there comes the point where I don't want to be associated with this guy. Get him the hell out of here. And that's what they need to get to. And I know you know a few police officers too, and they're not happy with what they see. And I know you don't feel that this guy is he's one of them. But we feel bad for them because they're not on the front page. Give respect before they're going to get it, and I agree with that 100%. That's why I'm saying the good cops, you're not going to have that problem with. It's always going to be the loose cannons, the ones that have prejudices, whether it's blacks, Asians, Spanish. I mean, going back to the old days, and I'm not making a comparison, but when the cops were all Irish and they came across an Italian American, well, you're a mafia, they knock you over the head with a nightstick. Yeah, it's not the same because look at us now, and look at the blacks now. That hasn't changed, but it's to that point where they're there. There's got to be a better way to weed them out, and that unfortunately I'm not saying it's unfortunate that I don't have a black son. I am in that position, and this is where sometimes I can feel, I know what parents of black men do, because I had this discussion with both you and Nikki. If you're in your car and you're pulled over by a cop,
the protocol to take.
Put your hands on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir. Okay. I am now reaching into my glove compartment. See? No guns. I'm not going to harm you. I'm going for my license. Why do I have to say that? That's part I can understand that the black parents. Why do you have to teach your children that? We're supposed to be. I was raised. Okay, you got a problem, you go to the cops. Now it's, well, Catherine, Nikki, if you got a problem, who do you know in the precinct house? Call me first. Let's. I can't do that for you guys. Why do I have to teach you differently from what the rest of white America can do? So that hurts. I don't know how. If I've done the right thing with you, I've tried to do what I can, but I can imagine how much worse it must be for black parents to have to talk to their children, especially the sons. And I'm not saying you and Nikki have it any easier. Black females have it as bad, but unfortunately it seems like every black male that they stop is a crook or a druggie or something, and I don't know if I'd be able to live with that.
That goes into one of my last questions for you. We've had these conversations. There's been some people that have been around our family and they've questioned your wife about if I denounce the fact that I'm Italian, that I'm half white. And with that, being that I am a biracial woman, and I always lead with I'm a biracial woman, I also have a platform called BlackMenCryToo. I don't have a black father. You are my father, clearly. How do you feel with me having this platform? How do you feel with having those conversations or hearing those comments from people assuming that I denounce my Italian side because I stand up so heavily, so actively for civil rights, equal rights, black rights?
First of all, I don't see you denouncing that part of your heritage. I mean, obviously you've known me for how many years?
I guess that's why I've been here.
My heritage is Italian, but I always considered myself an American. Mm-hmm. And you've always heard me say, if it was up to me, I'd get rid of all these Italian American Day parades and Irish parades. We're American. And I don't mean that as a bleeding heart liberal or something. In high school, I had that feeling. They would want us to march in the Columbus Day parade. So why? I'm an American. I'm not Italian. And why aren't we called American Italians instead of, that whole nonsense? Italian Americans have been accepted in our society. I mean, okay, we haven't had an Italian American president yet, but that's going to come. I don't think I could say that fully. Yeah, Obama has been, was president. We have black senators, but I don't think they're still fully accepted. And it's Governor Cuomo. You don't hear them say the Italian-American governor of New York, but you constantly hear them say, well, the black senator from Massachusetts or the black governor of this state. Why? There is no way I would ever say you turned your back on your Italian heritage. I think you have embraced it. It's just that, okay, the Italian-American part of you is set in this country. Unfortunately, the black American part, people still aren't accepting that. So, like I said, I'm proud of you for standing up. Getting out there on the front lines, letting it be known.
Dad, what I typically do to close out the show is I ask our guests to give us 3 songs that they listen to uplift their mood, no matter what that mood may be. What are some 3 songs you can give to us? And you used to be a musician, so no pressure or anything.
Well, judging from my generation, as we mentioned a little earlier, so the songs I'm probably going to talk about, you may have heard only 1 or 2, or if you listen to the oldies, you might remember them. One, is one of my favorites, Earth, Wind, and Fire, The Way of the World. It could be kind of a sappy song, but basically it's saying this is the way the world is. Child is born, heart golden, things change. The world is the way it is. It starts off really wonderful, and then life happens. Mm. And you learn to deal with it and cherish the good times, type of thing. Another song which is more in tune, and I mentioned this to you earlier too, the current climate. There was a band, Chicago Transit Authority, which is now known as Chicago. They've been around for like 60 years, I think. They had it right after the Chicago Convention, 68, when there were riots in the streets. And that's the time I was becoming active in political protest, 68 and 69. That's a song called Someday, and they had an actual recording from the protest of The Whole World Is Watching. And I've been listening to that lately because what's happening now with the whole George Floyd movement is the whole world is watching. You read the Times or the Wall Street Journal, and you see what's going on in Germany. The people are protesting. France, Australia, it's like the whole world is watching us now. And it's like you keep listening to this song and it's, okay, life is repeating itself, but it looks like this time the whole world really is watching. I mean, when you have the Pope making comments about actions that our president is doing and they're not good comments, yeah, it looks like you guys have finally got the world to wake up and say, hey, the United States, you got a problem, and you know what? We probably do also. And it really keeps me, every time I hear that, it's like the whole world is watching. Yeah, this is good. This is really good. It's happening again. Back then, the civil rights movement and the police brutality and just the political situation was so fixed. It changed a little. But maybe this is now where it really takes off. And I hope that, that's what'll go on. The third song would be by a group called War, The World is a Ghetto. It's kind of a depressing song, but it kind of really lays it out. The world is a ghetto. You know, you look at it, you could really get down and depressed when you listen to it, but there are points in it where there's hope. You know, you're looking at the sky starry-eyed. You know, so even though there's despair and hunger and stuff around you, there are still good things that we have to reach for. I mean, it's kind of, when you listen to the song itself, it is kind of in a minor, sorry, the musician in me, in a minor key. It's got that little eerie sense to it. But when you listen to the words and the music and the chorus, it kind of eases you, like, okay, yeah. I hate to use the phrase that they used to use during the Vietnam War, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And I'm hoping that this time it's true. You know, and that the songs, the three of them, they kind of lead me to that, like, okay, we've been going through this long tunnel, and maybe now we finally really are getting to the end, and something is going to change, and maybe your mom and I are going to be able to rest at night and not worry while our children and our children's friends have a future where they can live as full human beings with equal privileges for everybody, rather than still wondering, are they going to be held back for no reason other than the way they look.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Daddy.
And I didn't mean your hair. I don't love your hair.
You know, I thought about it when you had said it, and I was like, there was a little dig to my hair, but it's fine.
No, it had nothing to do with the hair.
Yeah, but you threw it out there, so slightly side-eye. As always, you can join the conversation and follow us on Instagram and YouTube, BlackMenCryToo, TOO. And thank you again for watching. This has been a special Father's Day edition. And to all the fathers out there, to all the Black fathers out there as well, you are loved, you are appreciated, and we're here for you.